Good day, everyone. We are Group 5 and today we will tackle to you the history of evolution of criminology. Criminology in religious aspects. All human beings were considered to be born sinners because of the legacy of the original sin. Thus, crime is equated with sin. It is the violation of the sacred obligation. Criminology in spiritual aspects. It was thought that criminal act was the work and influence of the evil spirit. People were believed to be possessed with a good and evil spirit that resulted with a good and bad behavior. The PCCR, or the Philippine College of Criminology, in 1970s were formerly known as Paridel Educational Institution in 1954. It was founded by former Supreme Court Justice Felix Angelo Bautista. This school was considered as a pioneer school of the scientific crime detection and police science education in the Philippines. On July 1, 1972, the Republic Act No. 6506, an act creating the Board of Examiners for Criminologists in the Philippines and for other purposes, was enacted and implemented. And on September 21, 1972, Ferdinand Marcos declared the martial law. That is why the Republic Act 6506 was delayed and cancelled. On 1988, then finally, the Republic Act 6506 was declared and continued. Under the leadership of Mrs. Cory Aquino, it was required to become a licensed professional criminologist in the Philippines. On November 2018, Republic Act 1131, the Criminologist Profession Act of 2018, was repealed the Republic Act 6506. So what is criminology? Criminology derived from Latin words crimen, which means offenses, and the Greek word logos, which means to study. So who is Rafael Garofalo? Rafael Garofalo is an Italian law professor who coined the term criminology into criminologia in 1885. While Paul Tupinard is a French anthropologist who used the word criminology into French for the first time. It is called criminology in French. What is criminology? Criminology refers to the scientific study of crimes, criminals, and victims. It also includes the prevention and solution of crimes. So for Edwin Sutherland and Donald Cressy, they define the criminology as the body of knowledge regarding crime as a social phenomenon. It also includes within its scope the process of making the laws, breaking of laws, and society's reaction toward the breaking of laws. What is crime? Crime is an act or omission in violation of criminal law without defense or justification. Crime is a deliberate act that causes physical or psychological harm to us, that causes damage or loss of property, and it is against the law. So crime can affect all our backgrounds, locations, and ages. Revised Penal Code, or RPC. It states that crime is committed not only by means of malice or dolo, but also by means of fault or culpa. There is a deceit when the act is performed with deliberate intent, and there is a fault when the wrongful actions result from negligence, imprudence, lack of foresight, or lack of skill. Intentional felonies are requisites of malice or dolo. It is categorized by freedom of actions and intelligence.
So, the classical school of criminology, it was established by Caesar Beccaria during the Middle Ages. In this era, people who violated social norms or religious practices were believed to be witches or possessed by evil spirit. The use of cruel torture to extract confessions was common, or what we call the barbaric system. Also, it governs the principle of let the punishment fit the criminal.
So who is Caesar Beccaria? He is the first scholar to develop a systematic understanding of why people commit crime. He believes that all human beings are rational beings and they possess free will, the capacity to choose between right or wrong. And he also made an important application of punishment that it must be certain, swift, and severe. So Caesar Beccaria, he is an Italian nobleman and a law professor. He wrote an essay entitled On Crimes and Punishment in 1764 with the basic principle, let the punishment fit the criminal.
And who is Jeremy Bentham? He is a British lawyer and a philosopher who wrote The Principle of Morals and Legislation. He was concerned with achieving the greatest happiness of the greatest numbers.
And also the utilitarianism. It assumes that all human beings' actions are calculated in accordance with their likelihood or bringing happiness, pleasures, or unhappiness, pains, and people weigh present and future pleasures against present and future pains. And also it includes the Hinduism, in which it is a doctrine whose central idea is that the pleasure is the main goal of life. And there are also the three most common concepts of crime used by criminologists. The first is the consensus view of crime, in which it is the belief that the majority of citizens in the society share common values and agree on what behaviors should be defined as a criminal. And the second is the conflict view of crime. It is the belief that criminal behavior is defined by those in power in such a way to protect and advance their own self-interest. The last is the interactionist view of crime, in which it is the belief that those with social power are able to impose their values on society as a whole, and these values then define criminal behavior. And who is a criminal? A criminal is any person who has been convicted by a final judgment in a court of law of the crime charged against him or her beyond reasonable doubt. Who is a victim? He is the offended party, or the one who suffers injury or harm caused by an act of another person. And did you know that there are two kinds of victims? The first is those victims of crime. Those are harmed and injured by someone who committed a crime under the law. And the next is the natural disasters victims, in which they are those who are victims by natural disasters such as earthquake, flash floods, volcanic eruptions, and many natural disasters.
Neoclassical criminology. In this era, contends that children and lunatics are exempted from criminal punishment. They do not possess free will. Neoclassical school. According to this theory, this is a difference between total free will and determinism, and argues that no person has total free will. The three principles of focus on the neoclassical criminology are the rational choice, deterrence, and social learning theory. Positivist criminology. In this stage, it believes that criminology are like sick people that need to be treated rather than punished. Criminals commit crimes because of factors that are beyond their control, such as poverty. Determinism. It means that events that have causes that precede them. Positivism. The branch of social science that use scientific methods of the natural sciences and suggests that human behavior is a product of social, biological, psychological, or economic forces that can be empirically measured. Scientific methods. The use of verifiable principles that procedures for systematic acquisition of knowledge. The group of thinkers from this school were Cesar Lombroso, Rafael Garofalo, and Enrico Ferri.
So, who is Cesar Lombroso? Who is Cesar Lombroso as a thinker of positivist criminology? He is an Italian physician and anthropologist who wrote the book entitled Criminal Man in 1876. Cesar Lombroso was the founder of the Italian school of positivist criminology, which argued that the criminal mind was inherited and could be identified by physical features and defects, which is called the physical stigmata. It is classified as the protruding jaws, drooping eyes, large ears, twisted and flattish nose, long arms relative with the lower limbs, and sloping shoulders. His theory suggests that there are the basic differences between offenders and non-offenders. More specifically, born criminals have certain physical characteristics or abnormalities that make them different. Cesar Lombroso called these abnormalities as the atavistic characteristics. Types of criminals by Lombroso. The first is the born criminal. Lombroso suggests that criminality is inherited and that someone born criminal could be identified by the way they look. The second is the insane criminals. They are those individuals whose mental make-up at the time of the offending act was such that he or she was incapable of acting rationally with respect to the criminality of his or her conduct. But these are those who are not born criminals but rather became criminals because of some changes of their brains that hinders them to distinguish which is right from wrong. The third is the criminaloid, those with no physical stigmata like the born or insane criminals. It is further categorized as habitual criminals, juridical criminals, and criminals by passion.
So who is Rafael Garofalo? He is an Italian nobleman, magistrate, senator, and professor of law who rejected the classical principle that punishment should fit the crime, arguing instead it should fit the criminal, not to physical features, but to their psychological equivalent that he called moral anomalies. So there are four types of criminals by Garofalo. The extreme criminal, who are serial killers who killed by cold blood, and number two is impulsive criminal, who are alcoholics and the insane. Professional criminal, normal individuals who choose to commit crime and repel elimination by life imprisonment, transportation to a penal colony. And lastly, endemic criminal, those who commit crimes peculiar to a given region, and mala prohibita, crimes or acts that are prohibited by law.
Who is Enrico Ferri? Enrico Ferri is associated with Cesar Lombroso. He is a member of Parliament, a public lecturer, and a lawyer. He believed that criminals should not be held morally responsible of their crimes because they did not choose to commit it, but rather they were driven to commit them by the conditions of their lives. He believed also that the most common characteristics of the criminals were moral insensibility combined with low intelligence.
So classical theory and summarization. Criminology is the study of why individuals engage or commit crimes, and the reasons as why they behave in certain ways in different situations. Through understanding the reasons or why an individual commits a crime, one can come up with ways to prevent and control crime or rehabilitate criminals. Cesar Beccaria is considered to be the classical theory founder. His concept, even in today's world, continues to play a significant role in many countries' legal systems. However, this approach happens to be more flexible in the modern world.